I only found out after I died that my wealthy parents didn't want to recognize me at first. But they were bound to a system. And if they didn't win my heart, they would die. So they reluctantly took me home. The new house they gave me was full of formaldehyde. They took me out during my college entrance examination. The partner they introduced to me had mania. I was pushed off a tall building by the person with mania and fell to my death. When I saw that none of my family shed a tear for me, I realized that even under the pressure of the system, my family always favored the fake daughter. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day I was taken home. When I saw the poisonous house that my father was going to give me, the fake daughter, Evelyn, chuckled and said, "Sister Violet, this gift is really great. You can't let down Dad's good intentions. Hurry up and move in." In this life, I didn't accept it movedly. Instead, I gave an evil smile and said, "Since Sister Evelyn thinks this villa is great, I'll give it to you as a greeting gift." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Because of my arrival, Evelyn was very unhappy. In the garden, she overturned a pot of lollipop roses. In the corridor, she kicked an antique vase and broke it. Evelyn was the recognized little princess of the Webster family. She was spoiled and willful, and lawless. At this moment, there were fragments all over the floor. Mrs. Webster not only didn't scold her, but also coaxed her gently. "Be good. Don't be angry. You know, we had no choice." Evelyn pointed at her nose and shouted, "Then you can't be partial to her, even if she's your biological daughter. It's not allowed." "Oh, my dear, you're the apple of my eye. How could I not be partial to you?" Mrs. Webster's partial attitude was so obvious. Even though she had to win my heart, she didn't even bother to pretend to love me. Unfortunately, in my previous life, I was so excited and happy that my biological father was going to give me a new house as soon as I entered the house that I didn't pay attention to their conversation. Passing through the corridor, Mr. Webster pointed at a pink two-story building in the back garden and said to me, "Violet, there aren't enough rooms in the house. I specially built this for you. The whole building is yours." When she saw the pink house in front of her, Evelyn, who had been throwing a tantrum just now, suddenly laughed. She crossed her arms and turned to look at me. "Sister Violet, this gift is really great. You can't let down Dad's good intentions. Hurry up and move in." In my previous life, I grew up in an orphanage. Since I came back, I sincerely regarded them as my family for the rest of my life. So I believed their words. I didn't doubt the sarcasm and glee in Evelyn's tone. I also didn't doubt that Mr. Webster disliked me so much that he wanted to poison me. With gratitude and joy, I moved into this house. Every night, I had trouble breathing, a tight throat, and a dizzy head. Later, I started to have frequent nosebleeds. I didn't suspect that it was because of the house. It wasn't until I died that I found out. This house was a cheap prefabricated house that Mr. Webster bought online. He deliberately repainted it with cheap wall paint and pasted the cheapest wallpaper. The furniture inside was all made of cheap particle board glued together. It could be said that the whole house was full of formaldehyde. Moreover, the location of this house was the former doghouse of the Webster family. At this moment, just like in my previous life, Mr. Webster handed me the key to the house. "This is the key to the house. There are rooms upstairs and downstairs. You can live in any room you like, Violet." At this time, I suddenly heard an electronic voice in Mr. Webster's head. "Host, please note that if the person you're whining likes the accommodation you arranged, the family affection value will increase. If not, the family affection value will decrease. If the family affection value rises to 100, the task will be successful. If the family affection value drops to -100, the host will be eliminated." Unexpectedly, in this life, I actually heard the voice of the system. In my previous life, I only found out about the Webster family being bound to the system after I died a miserable death by falling off a building. I never heard the voice of the system. Fortunately, God had mercy on me and gave me a chance to start over. And I also heard the voice of their system. In this life, I won't expect any family affection or family anymore. I took the key. Mr. Webster quickly raised the corner of his mouth in a complacent arc, looking as if he had expected me to accept it. Evelyn laughed even more happily, but the next second, her smile froze on her face, because I stuffed the key into her hand. "Since Sister Evelyn likes this house, I'll give it to you as a greeting gift." I also smiled and urged, "Now, Hurry up and move in. Doesn't Mr. Webster regard Evelyn as the apple of his eye? I want to see which one he will choose between his own life and his beloved daughter. The Webster family obviously didn't expect me to do this. Evelyn, Mr. Webster, and Mrs. Webster were all stunned. Evelyn was the first to react. She threw the key back at me. Are you crazy? Who wants to live in your dog? Mr. Webster, afraid that the truth would be revealed, quickly interrupted her. I said I gave it to Violet. Of course. You go and live in it. Violet, this is a gift from Dad. I feel so guilty for leaving you out there for so many years. This is my compensation for you. Yes. Violet, Evelyn has her own room. I raised my eyebrows and smiled. Then I'll swap with Sister Evelyn. She can live in this new house, and I'll live in her room. A young man came in from outside and pointed at me and shouted, "Who do you think you are? You don't deserve to rob my sister's room." He was my biological brother, Stanley. He always doted on Evelyn. Because Evelyn hated me, Stanley also hated me. In my previous life, when I was in the Webster family, he never had a good face towards me. He either scolded me or lectured me. If you don't want to live here, get out of our house now. He angrily reached out to push me. However, as soon as he reached out, Mr. Webster stopped him, because the voice of the system in Mr. Webster's head was counting down. Host, please note that since the accommodation didn't satisfy the person you're aiming, your family affection value for her is dropping rapidly. -5, -10, -15. Mr. Webster, who had just insisted that I live in the new house, was so anxious that his eyes turned red. He suddenly and decisively shouted, "Listen to Violet. Evelyn, you move out and let Violet live in your room." I almost burst out laughing. It turned out that he didn't love his adopted daughter that much. After I died in my previous life, I heard Mr. Webster whispering that he wanted to get rid of me by giving me the poisonous house, purely to make his beloved Evelyn feel at ease. But now, in order to save his own life, he was willing to let his precious daughter live in the poisonous house. Dad. Evelyn widened her eyes in disbelief. Mr. Webster had always been a daughter lover in front of her and never dared to speak loudly to her. She couldn't believe that Mr. Webster didn't listen to her and forced her to change rooms. She acted coquettishly as usual. Dad, you said I'm your only baby. Why should I give up my room to her? I won't. However, Mr. Webster not only didn't spoil her as usual, but also scolded her sharply. Shut up. Move when I tell you to move. Evelyn. It wasn't just Evelyn who was stunned. Mrs. Webster and Stanley also thought they had misheard. They stared at Mr. Webster in disbelief. Mr. Webster ignored them and eagerly smiled at me. Violet, Dad will ask someone to move Evelyn's things out and leave the room for you. I'll definitely make you satisfied. I nodded. The family affection value that had been announced continuously in his head finally stopped dropping and finally stopped at -40 points. Evelyn refused to live in the poisonous house. She also refused to live in the guest room. She made a big fuss and threatened to run away from home. Mrs. Webster offered to let her live in the master bedroom. To coax her, Stanley transferred several sums of money to her, and Evelyn finally calmed down. In the evening, when I was carrying milk and passed by the study, I heard Mrs. Webster and Stanley arguing with Mr. Webster. Mrs. Webster was furious. You still have the nerve to call yourself a daughter lover. Is this how you treat our daughter? I've seen through you. You're a liar. Mr. Webster defended himself. Do you think I don't love Evelyn? But this is a task from the system. If I don't swap the rooms, the family affection value will keep dropping. I can't die for such a thing. Mrs. Webster was excited. I told you to ignore that damn system. Evelyn doesn't like Violet. We shouldn't have brought her back. What good things can a child who grew up in an orphanage have? You didn't listen. You deserve to be manipulated by her now. I also heard the binding prompt sound, and I ignored it. I'm still alive and well now. Anyway, you're selfish. Scared by that damn thing. You don't care about your precious daughter anymore. You don't deserve to be Evelyn's father. If it were me, even if I had to die, I wouldn't let my baby be wronged at all. Stanley also sneered. So what if there's a system? I don't believe it. A ugly girl who grew up in an orphanage and is not even worthy of Evelyn's little toe. How difficult can it be? Just give her some benefits, and I can win her heart easily. I sneered and went to rest in Evelyn's original beautiful and spacious room. It was Evelyn's birthday. The Webster family arranged a grand party for her in a hotel. Because of my arrival, I also had the same birthday as Evelyn. They had to prepare a birthday dress, jewelry, and birthday gifts for me temporarily. The dress was bought by Mr. Webster in a hurry, because he was eager to increase the family affection value. Although it was bought in a hurry, it was a new style from an extremely expensive luxury brand. Not worse than Evelyn's. Evelyn was angry with Mr. Webster. When she saw the dress prepared for me, she became even angrier. She lost her temper and said she hated Mr. Webster and asked him to get out and not go to her birthday party in the hotel. Mr. Webster defended himself that he was forced by the situation, but Evelyn didn't listen at all. Mrs. Webster and Stanley, who doted on her, also helped to drive Mr. Webster away. Mr. Webster blushed and cursed, "You ungratefully people," and slammed the door and left. Mrs. Webster customized a pink diamond necklace for Evelyn. It was shining brightly. It almost blinded my eyes. Mrs. Webster looked at Evelyn, who was dressed like a princess, and her eyes were full of love. However, the voice of the system in her head rang out. "Host, please start it. You can give a birthday gift to the person. If she is in a good mood, the family affection value will increase. If the family affection value rises to 100, it will be successful. On the contrary, if it drops to -100, the host will be eliminated. Friendly reminder, if it drops below -50 at one time, the host will be punished with an electric shock for 1 minute. The family affection value is starting to drop. -5, -10, -15. Mrs. Webster finally remembered me. She casually took off her pearl earrings and handed them to me. "Happy birthday, Violet." Seeing that I didn't take them and was staring at the necklace around Evelyn's neck, there was disgust in Mrs. Webster's eyes, but she quickly regained her smile. "I'm sorry. I didn't know you were coming back and didn't have time to prepare a gift for you. I can tell you're a sensible child. You definitely won't blame Mom, and you'll understand Mom, right? In my previous life, she morally kidnapped me like this. I also hoped to get my biological mother's favor like Evelyn. So, I tried to be the sensible child that Mrs. Webster said. I listened to her, didn't fight for anything, and didn't grab anything. I quickly helped her succeed. Then, she abandoned me. Until I died. I didn't get any favor from her, just like in my previous life." At this moment, she thrust the pearl earrings with dead skin on the stud in front of me. "These are my favorite earrings. I'm giving them to you now. I hope you like them. In my previous life, I cherished this gift from her. Now, I'm very disgusted." I tilted my head and told the truth. "What should I do? I don't like this gift at all." Mrs. Webster was stunned. After a while, she held back her impatience and asked, "Then what do you want?" I pointed straight at Evelyn's neck and smiled wickedly. "I like that necklace. You can get it for me." Mrs. Webster instinctively screamed, "Absolutely not. Don't even think about it." At this time, the voice of the system in her head also shouted urgently, "Host, please note that the family affection value has dropped below -50, and the electric shock punishment is about to start. 5, 4, 3. Although Mrs. Webster's favor for Evelyn made Evelyn confident on weekdays, but because of Mr. Webster's example before, at this moment, she couldn't help but remind Mrs. Webster coquettishly, "Mom, I don't want to give the necklace to her. You definitely won't be as excessive as Dad and force me to give in, right? If you dare to treat me like this, I really would rather let you be a homeless than want you." Mrs. Webster replied firmly, "Don't worry. Mom won't let you give anything up." Evelyn was satisfied and triumphantly gave me the middle finger. But before she could finish giving the middle finger, Mrs. Webster, who was shaking from the electric shock, suddenly rushed in front of her and reached out to tug at the necklace around her neck. "Sorry, baby. Let her have this. Mom will get you a better one tomorrow. Mom will definitely make it up to you." Evelyn was stunned and forgot to react. I sneered. It turned out that Mrs. Webster, who loved her adopted daughter the most, could also compromise. When the board doesn't hit her, she doesn't know the pain. Mrs. Webster, who had just been shouting that she would rather die than let her adopted daughter be wronged, before she faced death, forced her beloved adopted daughter to give in to me. Seeing that the necklace was about to be taken away, Evelyn came to her senses. Spoiled in the Webster family and never having suffered a loss, Evelyn would never give in. She immediately reached out and held onto the necklace tightly. I won't give it. Mom, if you insist on snatching it, then strangle your baby. Mrs. Webster's fingers gripping the necklace loosened and then tightened. Her facial features were twisted in her entanglement, looking extremely painful. Evelyn's neck was scratched by the chain, and a little blood oozed out. Seeing her precious daughter get hurt, Mrs. Webster felt sad. Just then, the electric shock punishment ended. She quickly released her hand that was grabbing the necklace, turned to me, and discussed with me. Violet, I'll customize a new one for you. I promise it will be exactly the same as Evelyn's. Okay. Mrs. Webster could be said to be the most greedy one in the Webster family. She wants everything. She wants to establish the image of a good mother who loves her daughter. She also wants to successfully complete it. In my previous life, because I was eager for my mother's love, I obeyed her like a dog. She controlled me with her superior maternal authority. She not only maintained the image of a good mother who loves her adopted daughter, she also easily succeeded and got the system reward. But in this life, I'm no longer a dog longing for family affection. The balance was broken. Between wanting everything, she had to make a choice. After the punishment, she came to discuss with me again. Obviously, she still wanted to maintain the balance of having everything. I raised my eyebrows and readily agreed. Okay, but there's no need to bother customizing it. Just give me the money. How much did you spend on that necklace? Just give me that amount. Mrs. Webster secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Evelyn raised her head triumphantly and gave me the middle finger. Because, having been spoiled since childhood, she thought that by grasping Mrs. Webster's partiality, she had grasped everything. She thought she had one. But in fact, this was my choice. I wasn't really interested in that necklace. What I cared more about was the price of the necklace. So, I chose to fulfill Mrs. Webster's scheming of having everything again. In this life, I don't want love. I just want money. The cash that I can hold in my hand quickly, after being hated by his adopted daughter and spurned by his wife and son. Mr. Webster simply let go. He stopped explaining to them. Instead, he focused on earning family affection points from me. He gave me clothes and jewelry. He ordered the kitchen to cook according to my preferences for 3 meals a day. He arranged a car and a driver for me. He found all kinds of excuses to transfer money to my card. Transfer money, including the 24 solar terms. He would transfer a sum of money to me, saying that the solar terms were also festivals, and the money was for the festivals. He arranged the best and most expensive things for me, including transferring to another school. He transferred me to the most expensive private Noble high school. In my previous life, the Webster family also transferred me to this school, but it wasn't for the sake of their daughter. It was simply because it was close to home. It was more convenient for them to use me as a tool to complete the task at any time. And Evelyn was also in this school. In my previous life, Evelyn, who couldn't tolerate me, said at school that I was an orphan clinging to their family, because the Webster family never publicly announced my identity. Plus, I grew up in an orphanage, among the pampered and proud wealthy daughters. I was like an ugly duckling. Naturally, my classmates believed her words. Evelyn regarded me as her servant, and it became a matter of course, whether it was during class or after class. At her command, I had to buy her milk tea, snacks, do her homework, and give gifts to the boy she liked, because if I didn't obey, she would go to Stanley and cry, saying that I bullied her. When she cried, Stanley, who obeyed her, would lock me in the basement, not giving me food or drink until I pleaded for mercy. So in this life, I refused to go to that noble school. I chose a public high school that I could enter with my grades. At present, everything in the Webster family was secondary. I was in my senior year of high school, and studying hard and getting into my dream university was the most important thing. After that birthday, Stanley took Evelyn and moved to his villa. Mrs. Webster, who wanted to repair her relationship with her beloved daughter, also moved there. Mr. Webster was busy with work and often went on business trips. Now, most of the time, I lived alone in the huge Webster family villa. No one disturbed me at home. There was no Evelyn bossing me around at school. I devoted all my energy to my studies. My test scores were getting higher and higher. With the improvement of my living conditions and proper nutrition, unknowingly, my skin became whiter and whiter. My hair also turned from yellow and withered to black and thick. Because I was getting richer and more beautiful, my personality also became cheerful and confident. In my previous life, in lively occasions, I would just shrink in the corner. Now, I was generous among my classmates. I used the money I got from Mr. Webster. With the convenience of my previous life's foresight, I made 2 investments that would make a huge profit in the next few years. In my previous life, because my life in the orphanage was so miserable, after being recognized by the Webster family, I thought that as long as I worked hard to get my relatives' recognition and love, they would become my shelter from the wind and rain. It wasn't until I died once that I realized that the biggest storms I experienced in my previous life were brought by my so-called relatives. In this life, I threw off the shackles of family affection. I was no longer sad and cowardly. I loved myself. I planned for myself. After I became my own umbrella, my world became sunny. The sky was high, and the sea was wide, and everything was smooth. Just as I was almost forgetting the Webster family, Mrs. Webster came to me again. I was in class when the head teacher called me out. Mrs. Webster called the head teacher and said she had something urgent to talk to me. In my previous life, students in the Noble School could bring their phones, but in this life, students in the public school I'm in are not allowed to bring their phones. So, Mrs. Webster called my head teacher's phone. Mrs. Webster said to me in a commanding tone, "Violet, come to XX Square." I said, "I'm in class. Take a leave of absence. I'll tell the teacher for you. Come here quickly." In my previous life, Mr. Webster, Mrs. Webster, and Stanley would call me and ask me to take a leave of absence and meet them regardless of the time and place. I, who lacked love since childhood and rarely had parents, didn't dare to disobey, so I would come running every time. But every time I rushed over sweating, they would give me an insignificant little thing or some food. Then they would perfunctorily say that they missed me. I was so stupid that I secretly rejoiced and was touched in my heart. I took the initiative to give them family affection points one by one. In this life, when I think about it, I realize that none of the Webster family members looked down on me. They never regarded me as family. How could they miss me? They just needed me as an NPC to save their lives. Even when I was about to enter the college entrance examination room, Mrs. Webster suddenly pretended to be sick and stopped me outside the examination room to help her complete the task. For their own purposes, they didn't hesitate to ruin my college entrance examination and my future. At the moment, it was obvious that Mrs. Webster was here to do the task again. This time, I refused unceremoniously. I won't take a leave of absence. It was them who needed me, but they still put on an arrogant attitude in front of me. In this life, I'm no longer a person who is easily taken advantage of. Mrs. Webster, who didn't expect me to refuse firmly, was stunned for a moment and then started to lecture me. The education is backward. You don't need to take it seriously. We'll pay for you to study abroad. Mom has something urgent. I'm hanging up. Wait, Violet, do you know that it's because you're not as clingy, loving, and considerate as Evelyn that Mom can't get close to you? Listen to Mom. Studying is not important for a girl. You have to be obedient and sensible, so that you can be loved and cherished. Do you understand? Oh, then go find the likable Evelyn. Don't look for me anymore. You. I hung up the phone and turned it off. Before hanging up, I clearly heard the system reminding Mrs. Webster that the task had a time limit. It was 1 year. If she didn't succeed within the time limit, she would be eliminated. It turned out that the task had a time limit. No wonder she was in a hurry. I guessed that she wasn't the only one in a hurry. After school that day, the driver who picked me up on time every day asked for leave. Looking at the date, I knew that another one was going to take action. After sending a message silently, I chose to take a taxi home. The taxi driver drove a certain distance. Suddenly, he locked the car door and reached out viciously to snatch my school bag, until he found my phone and threw it out of the window. Then he started the car again. He stopped the car in a secluded alley and told me to get out. From beginning to end, I didn't resist at all. When he told me to get out, I got out. The driver drove away. Soon, 5 boys with various dyed hair surrounded me. In my previous life, it was in such an alley, and there were such gangsters. They pulled my hair hard, slapped my face, and forced me into a corner, kicking and beating me. Then, Stanley appeared in front of me as if he had dropped from the sky. He rescued me from these gangsters. He became my savior, and I was grateful to him. His family affection value easily broke through 100. Later, He lied to me that the son of an important client of his took a fancy to me. He asked me to help him and pretend to be in a relationship with the client's son. He said that when he got the cooperation, we could end the relationship. Although I had concerns, I couldn't bear to see him in trouble. So I finally agreed. Then, that blind date became my nightmare. It wasn't until I died that I knew that those gangsters who bullied me were arranged by Stanley. The client's son was also a maniac patient deliberately found by Stanley. Because the Webster family had succeeded me and didn't need me anymore. Because Evelyn couldn't tolerate another daughter in the Webster family. She wanted to be the only princess of the Webster family. So, Stanley wanted me to disappear completely from the world. Stanley drugged the maniac and tricked me into a hotel room. In the end, because I resisted desperately, the maniac pushed me off the 20th floor. At this moment, the gangsters were approaching me step by step. A black car suddenly drove over from the end of the alley. The car stopped, and 4 tall and strong men got out. Without saying a word, they grabbed the hair of the delinquent youths and gave them a good beating. These 4 bodyguards were arranged by me. I specially hired professional bodyguards from a security company. These days, they had been following me closely a few meters away. Before taking the taxi, I sent them a message. These bodyguards were all first class in their skills. The 5 gangsters were no match for them. After a while, the gangsters were beaten so hard that they cried for their parents. They honestly confessed the whole process of Stanley paying them. I doubled the money I gave them. I asked them to deal with Stanley when he came. Not long after, Stanley really came. I was in the car at the entrance of the alley with the bodyguards. We watched as the gangsters pinned Stanley in the corner and beat him up. The 5 gangsters were already angry from being beaten by my bodyguards. Plus, I gave them a lot of money. They didn't hold back when beating Stanley. Stanley broke a leg, an arm, and several ribs. He stayed in the hospital for several months. My family affection value for him kept dropping. During his hospitalization, he not only had to endure the pain of being beaten but also the pain of the electric shock punishment. After Stanley was discharged from the hospital, as long as I was at home during the holidays, he and Mrs. Webster would come back to live. When they were there, I would go and stay in a hotel. I knew they wanted to see me, but I didn't give them a chance. The college entrance examination was approaching. I was very busy. They couldn't see me. They went to Mr. Webster, because the time limit was approaching. Both of them were in a hurry, and Mr. Webster had the highest family affection value among the 3 of them. It had already broken. Mrs. Webster and Stanley's family affection values were both below 0. If they provoked me a little, it would drop below -50, and they would receive an electric shock punishment. After being shocked 10 times, they didn't have any temper left. After all, one was his son, and the other was his wife. Mr. Webster had been training Stanley as his heir. Naturally, he didn't want to see his son ruined because he was against me. Mr. Webster generously taught them his experience. Transfer money. Since then, my card became busier and busier during holidays. There were amounts of $50,000 or $100,000 transferred to my card every few days. Looking at the longer and more numerous numbers in my card, I regretted my stupidity in my previous life even more. How wonderful it was to have money. I could buy whatever I wanted. It was much better than the false family affection of the Webster family. After sending money for a month in a row, Stanley and Mrs. Webster couldn't wait to see me. Because when it came to sending money, when Mr. Webster sent $50,000, the family affection value would at least increase by 5 points, and sometimes even by 10 points. But when they sent $50,000, the value would at most increase by 1 point, and sometimes it wouldn't increase at all. With the 1-year time limit approaching, they were almost driven crazy. At the moment, the 2 people standing in front of me were both looking haggard. The haughtiness they used to show in front of me was completely gone. They humbled themselves as they had rarely done before. They said they wanted to invite me to have a meal and that they had something important to talk to me about. Now that I had money and was in a good mood, I didn't make things difficult for them. Okay, but I'll decide on the time. Both of them nodded repeatedly. Okay, we'll listen to you. Violet, go back and wait for my call. Okay. The college entrance examination was coming up, and I wouldn't be distracted by them. In this life, I was fully prepared. The exam went smoothly. During the summer vacation, I received the admission notice from my dream university. This had always been my biggest dream during my student days. Although it took 2 lifetimes to achieve it, I finally made it. The Webster family booked a private room on the viewing floor of a luxury hotel and sent me the location. I arrived nearly an hour early. At the door of the private room, I heard them talking to the system. Mr. Webster asked anxiously. System, we've invited the person we're trying to. She'll be here soon. What exactly is the fastest way to increase the family affection value? He had sent a lot of money and showed a lot of hospitality, but the family affection value had been stuck at 80 and wouldn't increase. He was so anxious that he felt like he was going to die before it failed. The system said, actually, the best way is to use the love of the family to win her heart. If the family is reunited, all of you can live well. Mrs. Webster was the first to get impatient. I've told you many times, Evelyn in our family doesn't like Violet. Stanley said, we can't break Evelyn's heart for that dead girl who has no feelings for us. I can't do it. The system asked flatly, how can there be no feelings? Violet is your biological daughter and sister. When it comes to making a choice, shouldn't you choose your own flesh and blood? Mr. Webster also got impatient. Why are you talking so much? Evelyn was carefully raised by our Webster family with a lot of money. She can do all the things that a socialite can do. In terms of the value of a marriage alliance, she is far better than that orphan Violet. Do you understand? Mrs. Webster choked up and said, Evelyn grew up by our side. She trusts us and loves us. We are a family. Violet is not close to us at all. We really can't like her. This is our fate. Stanley was so anxious that he started to scold. What do you know? You broken machine. Shut up. Hurry up and tell us the way. Do you still want us to do the task? Since it's so difficult for you to love her, then use money to win her heart. I've detected that the person is the happiest when she receives your money transfer, and the family affection value increases the fastest at that time. All three of them got angry. How much money have we given her? It's tens of millions in total. How much more do you want us to give? Yeah, she's like a bottomless pit. She grew up in an orphanage. Her character is bad. She's greedy for money. It's disgusting. Since you haven't been able to break the score of 100, it means that the money you gave her is not enough. There's only one way left, which is to give her all your property. If you give it all at once, the task will definitely succeed. Don't even think about it. It's impossible. She's dreaming. Host, please note that there are only the last 3 hours left for it. If the family affection value doesn't break 100 in 3 hours, all of you will be eliminated and disappear from this world completely. You can't take any of your wealth with you. The Webster family was speechless. Mr. Webster was the first to take action. He called a lawyer to prepare all the procedures and send them to the hotel immediately. Stanley was reluctant. Dad, are you really going to give everything to that dead girl? Otherwise, what? Do you want us to die together? Mr. Webster lowered his voice. Let's get through this first. Our Webster family has a big business. Can she, a mere girl, take it all? What are you worried about? Mrs. Webster also reacted and quickly said, that's right. Listen to your dad. There's not much time left. With that, the three of them reached an agreement. Seeing them so busy, I didn't rush in. I went to the empty private room next door and stayed there until the appointed time before going over. Mrs. Webster was extremely affectionate. She took my arm and had a loving smile on her face. Daughter, you worked hard for the college entrance examination. To celebrate your admission to university, your dad, your brother, and I have prepared gifts for you. Come and take a look. She handed me a stack of documents. Violet, these are all the assets in my name, including company shares, real estate, gold bars, and deposits. I've already notarized them. If something happens to me in the future, all these things will be inherited by you. Mr. Webster repeated the same words, but the property documents he gave me were several times thicker than Mrs. Webster's. Stanley also took out all his belongings. They vowed that if anything happened to them, everything in the Webster family would belong to me. The lawyer showed me the 3 wills. Just as the Webster family was about to sign them, the door of the private room was pushed open. It was Evelyn. There was a man behind her. The moment I saw that man, I felt cold all over. It was the man with mania whom Stanley had introduced to me in my previous life. I suddenly understood. It turned out that Evelyn had helped Stanley find this man with mania. In my previous life, it wasn't just Stanley who killed me, but also Evelyn. While I was in a daze, the man came up to me and choked my neck. Evelyn pointed at me and ordered the man, throw her downstairs, and I'll send you abroad. You won't be locked up in a mental hospital anymore. The man dragged me towards the window while choking my neck. Evelyn, what are you doing? Baby, make him stop. Sister, Violet can't die. The Webster family, who had been stunned by this sudden scene, reacted. All three of them ran towards me nervously. Evelyn raised her voice. Stop. Otherwise, I'll make him strangle Violet to death now. Mr. Webster and the others didn't dare to move. Evelyn, why are you doing this? Evelyn didn't answer. She walked up to the table, picked up the will, and laughed. You forced me. Do you know why I've always insisted on being the only daughter of the Webster family? Because I want all the property of the Webster family. Stanley listens to me. He won't compete with me. But Violet doesn't listen to me. As long as she's here, she'll take a share of the property. How can I tolerate her? Now you're going to give all the property to her without asking me. And you're asking me why. Seeing the time passing by, Mr. Webster shouted anxiously. You know we have a reason for this. If you do this, we'll all die. Evelyn screamed. But you can't exchange your lives with my property. You've always said you love me. Then you can die for me. Evelyn, Mom loves you so much. How can you not care about Mom's life for the sake of money? Sister, you're lying. You won't treat your brother like this. You love your brother the most. You can't bear to let your brother die. Right. The three of them in the Webster family shouted in disbelief. Evelyn laughed. Love. Are you kidding? What do I need you for if you have no money? She turned around and ordered the man coldly. Throw her down quickly. Just as the window was pushed open, a flying dagger stabbed the wrist of the man with mania. Taking advantage of his pain and loosening his grip, I quickly ran away. The owner of the dagger was the bodyguard waiting for me in the next private room. I had told them to come and check the situation every 5 minutes. At this moment, all four of them rushed in. I told them to take the man with mania and Evelyn to the room where I was pushed downstairs in my previous life. Cut off all contact with the outside world. Lock them up. And guard the door to prevent Evelyn from escaping. Countdown. 1 minute. Mr. Webster, Mrs. Webster, and Stanley didn't care about Evelyn's betrayal. They also didn't care that she was taken away by my people. One by one, they ran back to the table like crazy. They grabbed the will and signed it quickly. Then they presented it to me and expressed their love earnestly, as if reciting a lesson. Daughter, Dad will love you more in the future. Violet, I'm sorry. Mom used to treat you bad for that heartless girl. Mom won't do it again. Mom will only love you from now on. Sister, you're my real sister. You'll always be. However, their voices became weaker and weaker, and their faces turned paler and paler. Finally, they collapsed one by one. So I used to believe their words. Time's up. The mission failed. The host will be eliminated. Time's up. The mission failed. The host will be eliminated. When they died, the eyes of the three of them were wide open. Their eyes, which couldn't close in death, were filled with questions, unwillingness, and resentment. They didn't understand. They had done everything according to what the system taught them, but they still failed. But I understood. They didn't love me. They had never loved me. After the tragic experience of my previous life and seeing through their disguise, I didn't love them either. Therefore, no matter how much they gave me, the family affection value they expected would never break 100. The ending of their failure and death was something they chose themselves. As Mrs. Webster said, it was all fate. If they wanted to blame someone, they could blame fate. Not long after, I heard the news about Evelyn. I heard that she went to a hotel with the man, but she didn't know that the man was a maniac. They had a conflict in the room, and the man with mania pushed her off the 20th floor. I became the only legal heir of the Webster family. I owned hundreds of millions of assets. One day, I heard a familiar electronic voice. Hello, the real daughter. I'm the system that was bound to the Webster family before. The system told me that it was a system derived from too many stories of unfair treatment of the real daughters who were left behind. Since I was born, I've been determined to be a good system and make all the real daughters who aren't loved be loved. But I'm useless. I failed the first time. I'm sorry. I felt warm in my heart. It's not your fault. People's hearts are uncontrollable. Thank you. You've helped me a lot. Really, I'm so glad I could help you. But this time, I've also learned a lesson, which is that if I can't help them get love, then I'll help them get a lot of money. Because I've found that money can make you humans happier than love. I'm leaving now. I'm going to do the next task. I hope you'll be happy on your own. I smiled. I'm happy now because I met you. The best system in the world. I wish you all the best for your future tasks. I also wish all the daughters who are struggling in the abyss can meet such a good system as soon as possible. See the light, and gain the happiness they want. I'm the best system in the world. Haha, I'm the best system in the world. The system hummed a happy song and bounced away. I waved hard at the air and watched the round white light group bounce farther and farther away until it disappeared into the sky. The end.